Welcome to Raising Independent Thinkers. This show is a space for families who are homeschooling or thinking about homeschooling. We'll explore alternative teaching methods, federal and state homeschooling laws, and most importantly, this show is a platform where families can inspire one another on how to raise independent thinkers. I'm your host, Bathsheba Omani, Montessori educator, homeschooling consultant, owner of Homeschool Guide LLC, and mother of two. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Raising Independent Thinkers show. I'm your host, Bathsheba. I'm hoping that there's no echo. I just want to make sure that I'm hoping that there is no echo. I'm just wanting to make sure everyone can hear me. Welcome to the Raising Independent Thinkers show. This is your host, Bathsheba. If someone can just let me know that you can hear me, that would be wonderful. So I hope everyone's having a lovely weekend. This week has been pretty busy for me, but it's been productive. Okay, Akeem just said that he can hear me. Thank you, Akeem. Okay. Yeah, it's been a pretty good weekend for me, and week for me. I have no real complaints. Life is good. But for the first time ever, I decided to purchase an electric hedge trimmer to trim some of the bushes around my house. And come to find out, I did not realize how much work that entailed. Okay. I mean, first of all, I didn't realize how long I was out there trimming. It probably was about an hour or so. And, when you start doing it, it's just easy to kind of get carried away. That's how I felt. But the day after, both of my arms were extremely sore, and they still are a little sore. And this was days ago. But yeah, I had a little workout. And I like the fact that I was able to trim the bushes exactly the way I wanted it to be trimmed. And it did make me feel proud that I was able to do that myself, and I figured that out. And yes, it would have been easy if I just paid someone to do it and I had somebody just do it for me. But I feel like I appreciated the work more because I did it myself. So, with that being said, hopefully you all enjoyed the clip I just played. It was by a master, Shi Heng Yi, and he talked about the 5 hindrances to self mastery. And I thought it was interesting. It's the first time I've heard of this, and I know that he mentioned that it's a Buddhist tradition, and he talked about self-discovery. And I enjoyed the story that he mentioned about climbing the mountain and talking to many different people about their experience about climbing the mountain. And at the end of it, he realized that each person had their own unique experience in climbing, and that we must find our own way, basically. And I think that it's the same in life, in that we must find our own way in life, and we all have our own experiences. So, with that being said, I thought about how, we as a culture tend to help our children more than we need to. And I thought I'd talk about that in tonight's show. And I have to apologize for not doing a show last week. I've taken on another class of adult students that I'm instructing online. It's actually a professional development course that I'm teaching. And I've been pretty busy with getting that started. So I do apologize. But yeah, the topic of today's talk is to help or not to help. And that is the question that many parents, many teachers think about when it comes to children. Should I help them? Can they do it themselves? Are they too young to do this? Am I doing too much? So, I did want to start off with a quote. And this quote is from Maria Montessori, who I have spoken about many times on the show. She was a physician, an educator. She was also a scientist and an innovator and many other things. But she was known for her educational method that builds on the way children learn naturally. Okay. So the quote says, "No one can be free unless he is independent. Therefore, in order to attain this independence, the active manifestation of personal liberty must be guided from earliest infancy." So let me just read that one more time. No one can be free unless he is independent. Therefore, in order to attain this independence, the active manifestation of personal liberty must be guided from earliest infancy. So that was written by Maria Montessori in her book, The Discovery of the Child, on page 32. So let's talk about that. How many how many of you all agree or disagree with this thought that no one can be free unless they are independent? It seems pretty obvious to me, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to call in on the number below, which is 563-999-3615, or you can type into the chat on YouTube. I'm going to pull that up at Akeem L's channel. That's Akiemel. And if you go on YouTube, you'll see that the show is live. Okay. So no one can be free unless they are independent. Now, when we break down the word independent, it's defined in the Oxford Dictionary as an adjective that says independent means free from outside control, not depending on another's authority. And it also says, in order to attain this independence, the active manifestation of personal liberty must be guided from earliest infancy. So it is an active manifestation, something you must do, something that is active in order to attain independence. Now, we're talking about children, okay? So, in many cultures, adults have this belief that children are helpless and should be totally dependent on adults for their care, and that they don't understand what's going on anyway. So, if they don't understand what's going on, we might as well just do it for them. That's the attitude. But we should know that there's a danger in that the child gets the message that they are basically an object instead of a unique individual. So, in many cultures, especially our own culture, adults feel the need to help children. And helping a child usually comes from a good place, right? However, helping is not always helpful to the child's development. So, when we think about it, how many times have we just taken over something that the child is trying to do for themselves? Because maybe they're not fast enough or they're not doing it the way you want them to do it. I remember when my kids were younger, I would help them get dressed before school. And sometimes I would just dress them, if we were running late, I would just do the dressing. I mean, they look like rag dolls just moving around while I'm trying to rush out the door. And I just remember thinking each time I did that, I knew that they could dress themselves, and I was taking that opportunity away from them because of my lack of time management. So when they were younger, I tried really hard to give them that time that they needed to dress themselves, and sometimes that's all children need is just a little bit of extra time to do things. So it's funny because I see parents all the time who do everything for their child, but then get frustrated when the child becomes too dependent on their every need. So when we provide unnecessary help for a child, we're creating dependency, and we're sending the child a message that says they're not capable. So, why should they even try? So let me go ahead and just go back and forth and check and see who's all listening. Okay. Okay. Um, so it reminds me of a child that continues to drop something onto the floor, and then they wait until an adult comes and picks it up. And even though the child can pick it up, why should they? When someone else is going to do it, right? So another quote that I've been thinking about this week is it's another one from Dr. Montessori, and it says, "Never help a child with a task at which he feels he can succeed. We must help the child act, think, and will for himself. This is the art of serving the spirit." So that's also, again, written by Dr. Montessori in her book, The Absorbent Mind. And that's actually one of my favorite quotes. So, what do you all think about that one? Never help a child with a task at which he feels he can succeed. We must help the child act, think, and will for himself. This is the art of serving the spirit. I actually think that's a very powerful saying. And I know the quote for me brings this awareness that young children actually have the ability to complete a task on their own, right? And if we want to raise independent thinkers, we can't interfere with that. I tell families all the time that you'd be surprised how much a young child can do on their own, only if they had the opportunities to do so. So they need those opportunities to be able to think for themselves and to act for themselves and to will for themselves. And we as adults need to provide that. So, what do you all think happens when we, as the adult, interfere with a child's work or activity? And that activity, can be something as simple as them putting on their socks, for a very young child, trying to put their sock on, or making a bowl of cereal, an older child doing that, trying to figure that out on their own. What do you think happens to that child when we provide unnecessary help, when we just take over what they're doing because we feel like, you know, it's helping or they're not moving fast enough? What do you think happens? So when we do this, many times we're creating a dependent child, and we're sending that message that they are not capable of even trying to do something for themselves. And when you think about that, that brings a lack of confidence. It brings self doubt. It brings on uncertainty and insecurity. And these are things that, adults struggle with. So, it's also important to know that a child will not learn if we, the adult, does everything for them. So, without opportunities to practice and make mistakes, um, their coordination can't develop. And it reminds me of children that you see who may sit in front of their food and wait to be fed because that's what they're used to. I used to teach preschool. Actually taught preschool for just about 19 years. And I had a child who was, I'd say, around 2.5, 3 years old. And she would sit in front of her food during lunch and just watch everyone eat. And I told the mom, and the mom said, "Oh, that's because she's used to us feeding her." And when working with the child, after the mom told me that, I started working with the child to try to get her to learn how to feed herself. And I noticed that she didn't have the grasp to hold a spoon, which she should have had by that age. But because she never was given that opportunity at home and the parents would just feed her, that coordination was never developed. So I think it's really important for us to understand the ramifications of just doing too much for our children. And, you know, I'm saying this and I think about my children who are older. I have two young adult children, Sam and Rachel. And sometimes I battle with myself on how much I do for them because they're in this transition of adulthood. And even though my son has a physical disability, I always have thought in the back of my mind as to, what if I wasn't around? You know, I've always wanted them to both be as independent as possible, so that when I'm not around, they can take care of themselves and they can do that well. So, I strongly believe that older kids should know how to do things like do their own laundry. They should know how to take out the trash, how to cook meals. Um, they're learning how to balance their budget for the week, how to order food for themselves. They should learn how to make their own doctor's appointments. All of these things are practical life experiences that are going to be important as they get older. And we, as the adult, as the parent, need to give them the opportunity to do those things for themselves. And yeah, of course, they're going to make mistakes. And, um, you know, I'm not saying that we should not give them any help. Of course, I think we should always be there for our children, when they need us, whenever we can. But when we do give help, I would suggest give the least amount of help as possible. So, for example, say you have a very young child who is struggling to zip up their jacket. You know, you see these small children trying to put these big jackets on, and it's hard for them to do it. So, say this child is about 4 or 5 years old. Instead of taking the jacket and then zipping it up for the child, you can easily just start the zipper and then let them pull it up themselves, you know? And that way you're giving them the opportunity to do something for themselves. Um, Another example, an even younger child, a 2 or 3 year old who's struggling to put their socks on, you might want to help pull the sock over their toes and then allow them the opportunity to pull the rest of the sock on. Just giving that little bit of support. And it really does go a long way. And when you think about it, you can do that for many things. You can do it for older children, just giving that small amount of support, but not taking over taking over what they're trying to do. So I think it's important to just stand back and watch our kids. If you see that they're working on a task, even if it's something that you find small or easy, allow them to just try. Make time so that they can figure it out. If they're struggling, then give them that small amount of help and allow them the opportunity to help in the process. So, again, if anyone would like to share, or anyone would like to join in on the conversation, you're more than welcome. I'm this topic I'm very passionate about because I talk about it often. And I think this is one of the reasons why I started the podcast, because I believe that children should have the opportunities to be independent. And the only way they can do this is if we allow it, if we, the adult, allow it. So hopefully the message is helping someone out there. I do have a website. It's called Home School Guide, home-schoolguide.com. I actually posted it in our chat on YouTube. And yeah, please check it out, and please subscribe to the website. You'll be able to get reminders to my podcast. Also, if you're interested in homeschooling, I do offer consultations as well as suggestions for curriculums. Um, and also, please check out the other shows on our platform. Um, every Mondays, we have the Bun Bay Show at 7 p.m. On Tuesdays, we have the Truth Tuesday show with Akeem L at 7 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have the Solomon Temple show at 10 a.m. Thursdays, we have Tasia and Jessica's show, The Divine Connection, at 7 p.m. And of course, my show, Raising an Independent Thinker, is every Sunday at 7 p.m. Okay. Okay. Well, this will most likely be a short show. I hope that everyone has a wonderful week. I hope that you're staying healthy, and be blessed, everyone. Peace.